listeners. Back we are with a new episode of the Corporate Happiness Show. And today's guest, I met her in the focus groups, the research groups where we talk and chat about happiness at work, burnout, and wellness, and all that good stuff. I met her there, and her energy is just powerful. Her wisdom is powerful, and she just comes with such deep knowledge that I asked her to be on the show, and she said yes. So welcome, Ashlee. I'm really grateful that you're here.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I'm so happy to be here. I really appreciate you asking me to join you.
Yeah, no, I mean, that focus group was just, every focus group I hold is really, really amazing. And the information that comes out and the research paper, I can add on all this wisdom that comes out. But that focus group was just really like, the energy with everyone in there was just so amazing, and everyone wanted to connect. So I thought it was just really powerful. Like you say, LinkedIn and coming together and talking about good stuff is just really, really powerful. So you are a people operations leader. So tell me a little bit what that means and what you do.
Yeah, so currently I'm the director of operations at Informed K-12, and people operations is the more progressive way to say HR. Historically, we think of HR as just compliance and pushing paper and just making sure we're following HR laws. And historically, HR has really forgotten about the actual person, and it has really eliminated the humanization of employees. And so people operations is just that. It's like there's a function of HR involved in it, but there's also the elements of company culture and employee engagement and making sure that, we have a learning development piece in there. There's DEI in there. There's a lot of functions, what I would call four main functions under people operations, one of those being HR, but it really encompasses the employee as a whole, instead of just making sure that we're following compliance laws.
Yeah, I know, right? So do you think that just is being asked for more and more and more? Do you think like we're at a breaking point where it's so important that the shift happens from paper pushing to I work actually with human beings?
Absolutely. It's so funny because I was talking to my husband about this yesterday about how it feels like we've been in this cultural shift really for the last decade. And, before I felt like when I was working in healthcare, it was a lot of people who had been in the industry, had been working for a long time. I would say, more of like my parents' age, coming to me and saying, the millennials are so like they are just they're requiring too much, they're so entitled. And it's so interesting because I feel like people still weren't ready for that wave of like the younger generation to come in and really change what work is, how work feels, how people want to be treated at work. And now over the last couple of years, it's like, okay, we're here, and we've been giving these subtle warning signs over the last decade, and we feel like no one's been listening. And now we've had like the great resignation that was going on. There's all these topics, but at the end of the day, people want to not only come to work and just do the job. People want to feel humanized. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be recognized. They want to learn, and they want to be connected to a mission more and more. So yeah, like it's totally a shift, and that's where people operations really has been born.
Yeah, and I mean, like you say, you highlight that it's not just it just happened and now we get to be shocked about it and say, where did
Right.
that come from? No, this has been in the coming, in the making. There were signs all along. It's just now it's like time. It's like past time to really do that. So, do you think COVID like kind of like sped that up a little bit? A
I
little bit, a
definitely
lot?
think absolutely COVID exacerbated it for sure. That was a time when people were starting to, I mean, it was traumatic, and it was a lot of unfortunate death. People were dying. People
Yeah.
don't know when people are going to die, if people are going to die, how it's going to affect you, or your family members. And so I think that was a time where people really started to like take a step back and look at their lives from a bird's eye view and think like what really matters to me, spending all of my time at work and having minimal time for myself and my family, or does my family mean more to me? And my job and the money that I make is a means to be able to like do the things that I want to do and enjoy with my family and take care of my family. And so I think, you know, people realize like, I mean, the most important thing is not your job. It really is your family. Like those are the people that are going to be with you day in and day out through thick and thin, whether you have the job or not. And so that forced employers to, well, employees were saying like, hey, if I'm not able to have work-life balance, if you can't, you know, pay me what I'm worth,
Yeah.
if you can't give me flexibility, then I'm leaving. And now our employers are left to, you know, really try to understand like, what is it that we can now do to make our employees happy and like create this environment that they want to come to every day.
Yeah, and I mean, I totally agree with you, and I love how you phrase it and whatnot to humanize it, and it's also back to basics. You know, who is really important in your life? It's humans. It's that, you know, interaction, the love, the passion for being with each other and the community and everything. It's like humanizing even on a life level. It's not just
Right.
business level. It's been asked to humanize everything. Also, on a life level, we're asked to kind of like pay more attention that we're all human beings, all on our path. And what is that path? It's really about connections and whatnot, and love and compassion, and
Right.
the goodness of the human being, right? And so, but do you also think that, like, you know, in the newest generation, the younger people entering the workforce, that definitely also, together with COVID and the meaningfulness that shifted through that happening, that they're coming into the workforce and they've already kind of thought that way or felt that way, but now they're making this an even more powerful and stronger movement.
Absolutely. Values are changing, right? Before, many of the workforce, their values was stability and consistency. We saw that because people would stay at my parents, both of them retired from GM. They were there for over 30 years. I mean, it's not uncommon to hear our parents or grandparents' generations being at one place for over 20, 30 years, getting pensions. And we've seen those values change over generations. And now we've got the younger generation and they care about it's less about money specifically and more about like freedom and flexibility. And so it's like you're not going to be able to keep people with money only now. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
like, okay, we want to make money and we want to also like be seen as human beings and have the flexibility. People have kids, people need to take their kids. They want to see their kids off to school. They want to spend time with their parents. You know, they want to go on vacations and not just like have, you know, a little 2-3 day vacation here and there. People want to have time. So yeah, the newer generation is like, okay, we want it all.
Yeah,
Like
and I
safety,
like it
stability, and
because,
money, like we want it all.
yeah, and you know, I like that because what is it really all? You know, all means you can be who you really are. You can live a nice life, you can work a great work, and you can be happy. That's, you know, that's
Right.
all. That's actually the normal, the basic all what life is all about. And I mean, I'm from Europe, so I grew up in Europe and I live in America since a long time. But in Europe, I mean, you have vacation and you
Yeah.
take your vacation and you have a
Yes.
lot of vacation and it's supposed to be that way. And America always kind of strike me as like, really? I mean, that's like, wow, you're
It's
running yourself in the
insane.
ground, people. But yeah, no, I agree. Vacation, it's, and you know what happens on vacation is you kind of replenish and you get energy and you're bringing that goodness and that inspiration then back to work. So you're actually working better than when you come home from vacation. So I love how you highlight the vacation part because that is a very, very important piece to it because it's not even vacation, it's doing life, doing your life,
Right.
right? So, but it's also, there's another factor I think is like the younger people, they want to be themselves. Like I feel like back in time, and I think it came up in our focus group talk with all these amazing people, that, you know, you go to work, but you leave yourself outside of work, and then you enter into work like as an empty shell and go to work, right? And
Absolutely.
that is not okay anymore. It has not been okay since a long time. It may never have been okay, but it's now highlighted that people want to show up at work as a wholesome being, who they really are, right?
Absolutely. I use myself as an example for most of my career, especially working in healthcare. I used to say, and I used to joke about it, but then I realized it's really not funny because I'm not alone in this and it's not okay. But I was like, I would wake up as one person and then I drive to work and then I get out the car and I'm like, I'm putting on like, you know, an armor of someone else. Like I'm not even the same person. And then I walk outside, get in my car and I take it off and then I
Yeah.
become the real me, you know?
Yeah.
And I did that for many years. And it wasn't until I transitioned here. I literally like quit my life about 3 years ago. And my husband and I moved to Arizona. We quit everything, but it wasn't until then. And I started working. That's when I started working in the startup space. And I was like, oh my gosh, the first sign that like there was a shift going on where I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I can start to come to work as myself a little bit was when I didn't have to dress up at work anymore. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, people don't really care. It's not as much about like how you're looking as much as it's about like, are you able to get your job done? Are you, you know, are you getting the work done? Are you executing on the work? And it's like, it's not even realistic. People aren't dressing up every day.
Yeah.
Like that's just not,
No.
you know, people go to
No.
work, they wear one set of clothes, they go home and they wear something totally different when they're out with their friends. And as subtle and as much as that seems like it's insignificant, it really was pretty significant to me because it was more of like, oh, it was a cultural shift for me. I even was like, why are like people need to dress up at work, even if they're not client facing. And then I was
Yeah, and
like,
I mean, if you choose to do that, then go for it. But it's the
right.
choice that counts, right?
It's the choice and it's the ability to show up and like be who you are in what you're most comfortable in, right? And
Yeah.
of course there's boundaries around that, but we're adults and most of us know what that means. So that for me was like the first shift. And then the next thing is like 2020 happened and that was another outside of COVID and what, you know, the awareness that happened with COVID, but also you had like the George Floyd situation and you had Breonna Taylor. And now people are like, not only am I second guessing if this job is even worth it because it's taking time away from my family. Now I'm trying to understand, like, am I going to work working for a company who understands truly who I am?
Yeah.
And am I actually seen? And do these people really care about me? And people were starting to realize that that answer was no. I actually was one of those people. So yeah, like people deserve to come to work as your whole person. You know, people need mental health days. People want to wear their hair how they want to wear their hair. Their hair.
Yeah.
They don't want to feel like they got to come as two different people because your work and your professional life at this point are like pretty much like this now.
Yeah, and that brings on the opportunity to really shift to also to get to know the person. Who are you? And of course you can come the way you are. And I like what you said, you know, we're all adults, and honestly it's like people want to be treated as adults, and you know, not be told who they have to be or how they show up. Rather just trust in people that they will show up as adults, because you know, normally that's what we do and we like doing that, you know. And I mean, one thing that I wanted to touch base real quick on it is that in the beginning of the podcast, you said HR, you know, is shifting, right, from paper pushing to being humanizing the job, like you're working with humans. And I had that flash thought, you know, of like, she is actually, you actually are actually highlighting that that's actually a nice thing if the job
Right.
of HR changes. I want to highlight that because it's like, it's not that we're, you know, that we're putting HR down or finger pointing at HR. It's more that as a HR person, you actually have an opportunity to make your job really colorful, I want to say, and also you inspirational and more interesting and happier and just more rich just by doing the shift, because I saw it in you when you talked, and that's why I wanted to go back to that. Like, I'm like, wow, you really enjoy that shift, right?
I do. Historically, HR, it's like you hear HR and people are like, oh my gosh, HR.
Yeah,
Like nobody
it
wants to
is.
talk
It's
about,
like,
nobody
yeah.
wants to talk to HR. And that's why I'm very uncomfortable. When I actually got approached, I think at the beginning of the year by another company, and they were like, oh, it was for like a VP of HR. And I am so uncomfortable with associating myself with HR. It's a part of the function
Yeah.
that I lead. But I don't see myself as an HR leader at all. And I really just I don't want to be called it, right? I'm more than that. And I care about more than the compliance and the paper pushing piece of HR. It's one piece of it and it's absolutely necessary. But there's so much other, when I think about people ops, I'm thinking about how I can make sure that I'm creating an environment where people want to come to work and can be themselves, whoever they are. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, it's an inclusive culture. I also want to make sure that this is, I create a space where people feel like they can learn. It's just not like this dead end job where they just like come get a paycheck and go home. Like, I want people to be able to thrive where I am. And so I light up when I think of it. I have gone through many obstacles in my career, and my goal is, and I've also been in leadership for a very long time, most of my career. So I feel like I understand what leaders need, and my goal is definitely to support leaders and be an advisor and create tools and processes for them to lead the best way that they can. But also, like, I know what has been a burden to me as an employee on the other side, and I don't want anyone
That
else to feel that way. And so that is like, I have two driving forces there that really motivate me every day.
you're like the real deal. I see it and I hear it. That's why I'm so glad you came on this podcast, because it's really important to highlight all of that. So, and then you mentioned also like that people are now also wanting to see the values of the company and see if that reflects with their own values. So it's not even just, hey, I want to come and be happy, I want to earn a good amount of money, and I want to be respected as who I am, and I want to have vacation, and I want to be taken seriously when I say I need a day off. There is that other factor of what are the values of that company, and can I even work there? Does that even fit with my values, right?
Absolutely. People, initially it was, leave. Values at this point has been very heavily associated to like social justice issues and politics. I don't like to talk about, I hate that social justice has become a political issue, because in my mind it's not. It's truly just social justice, and everyone should care about it, because it affects everyone, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
I companies typically were like, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to stay away from these, um, you know, these difficult conversations. We're going to stay away from these polarizing subjects, and it's not acceptable anymore. Like, we have companies that are taking a stance, right? And they're publicly taking a stance, and employers want to see that. Like, these are questions that are being asked in interviews all the time. Every time I talk to a candidate, I would say 9 times out of 10, the informed K-12's stance on DEI and transparency always comes up. So companies are going to be really behind the 8 ball if they're not taking a stance on something. Yes, you will continue to attract, people to your team. But if you're thinking about, I want to create a diverse culture, and I don't want to create a culture that looks like tech specifically has always looked, which is very male, heterosexual, and white, then
Yes.
you're going to have a really hard time diversifying your team or even attracting diverse talent. top talent for sure if you are not sharing what your values of the company are. And so I think it's still really hard for companies to do that. Another disconnect that's happening is people are saying like, yeah, we do care about social justice issues, and we've donated, millions of dollars to external organizations to help, fight with or support social justice. But then you go and you look at their company profile on LinkedIn, and there's
Yeah.
no diversity on the team. There's no women on the team, and it's like, okay, what you're saying and what you are actually doing are not connecting, and that's going to be also really hard for people to attract diverse team members as well. So yeah, this shift is here. Companies need to get on board, leaders need to get on board, and they need to understand that, social justice issues and diversity, like that is it's a business need.
Oh,
Like it's
it's
no
very
longer
much, but
separate.
not just a checkbox. It's like whatever they say, they need to be able to also then follow through. That's
For
really
sure.
important. Very
For sure.
important. Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned healthcare a lot of times. So your background comes from healthcare, and I know that's a real tough place sometimes to be. And so how do you think the healthcare background helps you today in what you're doing today?
I actually was a licensed nursing home administrator for 10 years. I was running nursing homes, I think it's the second most heavily regulated industry. Um, so lots of rules, lots of pressure. Literally, people's lives are in your hand. We're managing medications. I mean, it's a lot, and we're typically meeting people at the worst time of their lives. They're either very sick or they're older, right? And their bodies are deteriorating in some form or way. Um, so I just had been used to, I work-life balance, not there. I was on call all the time. We would have gruesome state surveys up to 2 weeks long. Um, and so like I am coming over into an industry that's not heavily regulated, which is so exciting for me because I actually get to use I'm using what I learned as essentially a business operator in healthcare, and I'm able to translate that into the tech world, but also use my experience of leading people from all socioeconomic backgrounds. And I feel like I can relate to people all across the board, and I'm able to bring that into the tech space that I work in now. And also, like, I've been in, like I said, heavily regulated, this heavily regulated industry. Like, I don't feel rattled
Yeah,
very
it
easily
doesn't
by
rattle.
much. I've
Yeah.
I've literally, like, people's lives were on the line, and it was on my license, and I'm managing people who are taking care of these people, on a daily basis every day for 10 years. So, I felt like it really prepared me a lot. I felt like I knew a lot more than what I thought I knew coming out of healthcare, coming into a new industry. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful for that time. Definitely do not want to go back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I hear you, and I mean, your passion is like, well, first of all, thank you for doing all that because that's a very, very heavy duty job on many, many levels. You're saying it's regulated, but then there's also the emotional impact and
Oh
all
my
of that stuff,
gosh.
right? So,
Yes.
yeah, so absolutely. So, thank you for doing that because it's very, very important work that you have done. And then you're talking about you don't want to go back there. Well, because your passion now in your job, what do you think is your biggest passion? What are you so passionate about in your job doing the magic that you're doing for people?
My passion now is helping. I want people to come to work and feel good, not just about what they're doing, but like they feel seen, they feel heard, they can be creative. Um, you know, in all transparency, I've always been the only either woman, Black woman, person of color, most of my career. And that's actually been the toughest part of my career. You would think like I've been running nursing homes, like I've run into some really tough things. Being the only has actually been the toughest part of my career. And that really, a lot of those experiences drives what I do today, which is why it's so important for me to work with a company that has the same values as me, because I want to be able to do what I am coming here to do, which is to create these diverse, inclusive and equitable environments, and not just on the surface level. Like, I don't want to do status quo things that other companies have been saying they're doing, because it hasn't been working. I mean, if you look at the tech industry
Yeah.
specifically, all this money was, dedicated to external initiatives, like I said before. And the diversity in the tech industry really has not moved, especially in leadership levels. Like, women and people of color deserve to be in leadership roles. We're very capable of being in leadership roles, very capable of running companies. There's really no reason for us not to be there, except for the lack of intentionality behind creating these diverse spaces. Not only that, people talk about diversity and then they don't do anything past getting people in the door to actually keep them. And so that's really important to me too. It's like, okay, now we have you here. What are we doing to make sure that this space is inclusive for you? And
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
doing what we've been doing, for
No.
what we've been doing this whole time. It has not been working. We have all these equal pay days that are highlighting the inequities between, men and women. And we break it down by race and ethnicity. And despite all of that, the pay gaps still persist, right? So
Yeah.
it's not that people don't know, it's just there's a lack of accountability and a lack of intentionality between really like making changes. And I just want to be part of a company that wants to make a change, and I want to be part of that change as well.
Yeah, and I like how you say it's like so many people talk about it. So many, research papers have been done, so many polls, so many whatever, workshops and programs and everything that talks about that exactly that is just, women and different, just backgrounds and whatnot don't even have a chance, right?
Right.
So it's known, it's all out on a table. Yet the next and the last and the most important fact is to actually take action on it, and that's where it's lacking. So it's not that we don't know about it, it's there's not enough done about it, and that is where leaders and companies have to hold themselves accountable, because they're the ones that can or cannot do it, that choose or choose not to do it, or that want to do it or don't want to do it. So it's like the problem we know, it's really time to act on it. And that is on the companies, it's on leadership, it's on the ones on top. They have to start not just speaking out about it, checkbox, yeah,
Yeah.
but to actually really put it in and say, we are doing it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I one of the like best things over the last couple of years that's been it just like, this is why I get up every day. It's having, people that felt like they did not have any other opportunity elsewhere come into the space that I am leading from a people operations perspective. And like, they feel included, seen, they feel like they can be themselves. We have started, I've started ERG groups before, employee resource groups, where underrepresented communities can like have their own community for support and guidance. And we have it at Informed Case. We don't have a formal employee resource groups, but we have our groups that we're forming for that support, right? For LGBTQ plus employees, for Black employees, for Hispanic and Latinx employees. We're going to continue to grow that. But it's really important for me for our LGBTQ employees to come and be like, I can be myself. I don't
Oh,
feel,
yeah.
first of all, I'm not the only one here. Almost 30% of our team at Inform K-12 identifies as LGBTQ. We have, I was actually talking to one of our employees who is a trans woman, and like talking to her and just like hearing her story, and like, for one, I'm not the only one here. Like, I feel like I can be seen. I don't have to hide who I am. I don't have to hide my story. Like, it gives me goosebumps just like thinking about it, because that's really how it should be. And
Absolutely.
one thing that irritates me is like, you'll have an employee get like one person from an underrepresented group in, and they think they're done. And I'm like,
No.
no.
No, and it goes back to, you should look at the talent and not the background of the person. It's the
Yeah.
talent, it's the personality, it's what are they here to do, is it a fit from there. Everything else is really just, it shouldn't even be a talking point if you think about it. You
Yeah,
know,
it
it should
shouldn't be a
just be,
talking point.
exactly, it shouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
be, it should just be, are you a good fit, are we a good fit? And it's
Right.
also not, are you like, you, to see, to look at from the business level of like, they're gonna work for me. Actually, no. It's like we're gonna work with each other. You don't own your employees. They don't work really for you. That's an outdated model. It's, we're working with each other. It's an exchange. It's a community. It's a co-creation, collaboration really. And the exchange is the money and having a job and whatnot, but you don't work for, I'd never look at it like I'm working for someone. No, we work together. And I think that in itself puts everything on a plateau where it's equal.
Absolutely. It shouldn't be a topic, but it has to be if
It
we're going to
has to
be
be, yes.
intentional about it. And that's,
Yes.
that's the unfortunate part. And I think where a lot of leaders get it wrong is where it's like, well, it's not a big deal. Like we hire based off of, based off of talent or skills. But in reality, like that doesn't work because that's why we're
Yeah.
here. Right. And so
Yeah.
there has to be very strict intentionality from the top down. And what a lot of companies will do is we've seen a lot of companies hire like DEI practitioners or like leaders of diversity, equity, and inclusion from their company. And there's a really high burnout rate there because there's no support from the leadership level. Like one person can't fix it. It has to be an intentional practice, and it has to be something that everyone cares about, not from the bottom up, but from the top down.
Absolutely. And I like that, like you say, like it shouldn't be talked about, but we have to talk about it.
Have
We
to.
really, really have to, and never be silent again, and keep talking about it, make it bigger, 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 and louder, 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 because it's important. It's humanity. That's what it really is. It's the right thing to do. So you also help women
Mm-hmm.
in their career. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I feel like I'm finally at a place in my career and life where my the values of my personal life are actually, I'm able to like intertwine them with my career coaching business and also the work that I do um at Informed K-12. But yeah, it came out of just, I ran into a lot of obstacles that there was a lot of situations I didn't know how to navigate when I was early in my career. And I didn't know how to negotiate. I didn't know how to really navigate the corporate culture, learning how to communicate with executives, but also communicate with employees, navigating middle management, advocating for myself, negotiating. These are all things that a lot of people are not taught, right? Like you go to school, you go to
Yeah.
college, and you learn, subjects within your specific field focus, right? But then there's this really large piece about how to navigate your own career that is
Yeah.
missing. And so it was really born out of that. And I know a lot of like really brilliant, smart people who are women, who I identify as women, who are underpaid and just like
Yeah.
stuck in their career. They don't know how to get out. And so I wanted to be someone who could, help women to grow and like gain confidence in themselves and take up space, make sure that they're seen and heard, and make money, like learn how to negotiate and understand what your options are.
I love that. And it's so, so needed. It's very much needed. So, where can people find you? Also, do you have a website for the work you do, the career work you do with women?
Yeah, you can actually find me on LinkedIn. It's so interesting. I'm actually starting to be a lot more active on LinkedIn. And I actually have a link in my LinkedIn profile. My name on LinkedIn is Ashlee Davis Brooks, where you can actually book a call with me, and you can message me and you can connect with me and we can talk. But yeah, there's a simple a link that leads to a place where you can book a call, website, and yeah, we can chat and I can share my options with you. It really is, it's a course, right? So I've created this course, and then within that, there's one-on-one and group coaching that is included in that as well. And
That's
so this
wonderful.
course covers everything. I mean, of course, we talk about how to like brand yourself and your resume and your LinkedIn, but it really deals a lot with how you, as a person, as someone that is in a underrepresented group, especially in the corporate workspace, can really navigate those spaces, make sure that you're building relationships and making sure that you're increasing your confidence in yourself, so that you can get to those levels that you are destined to be at, that you're very capable of being at, making sure that you're able to get yourself to the table.
I love that. And you come from the background of been there, done that. I'm working as that. I'm creating these great work cultures. And you come from the healthcare and everything. So I just feel like you have like really everything. Like your foundation is so knowledgeable, and your energy, but you're kind. Well, there's no but really in there, and you're kind. And you're really fun, you're laughing all the time, and I like that. And it really shows that you are really not just talking it, that you're also walking that walk, and that you have a lot to give to the world and to support people, especially women, in what you're doing. And so I really thank you for being on the show, Ashley. I mean, I just think like it was meant to be that we met, wasn't it?
For sure. It's so, I mean, I was just thinking about when you reached out to me, and I did watch a couple episodes of your podcast. I was looking at your website and I was like, I don't know, like, who is Jacqueline, And so
I
I asked,
know.
kind of like what was the premise of the focus group. But anytime I can get to share my experience and like my passion, anytime I feel like I can help people, employees, if I can help leaders, like that's what I'm here to do. And thank you for having me and providing the space for me to share. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Same thank you right to you. So, and for the listeners, thanks for listening, for tuning in. I hope you're getting some inspiration from this episode, and you're going to check out Ashlee and connect with her. And until next week, thank you so much.
Bye.